All right, everybody, welcome to Making Informed Decisions. Today, we have some wonderful representatives from the Jewish Teen Funders Network who are going to teach us a little bit about the world of philanthropy and nonprofits. So, with us today, we have Alana Hollander, who is the Community and Special Projects Manager. At JTFN, Alana is responsible for consulting with new Jewish teen philanthropy programs, providing resources, guidance, mentoring, and training to program leaders and communities. In 2016, Alana developed and launched the JTFN Youth Ambassador Council, bringing together a select group of Jewish teens to amplify the teen voice in our field. Alana's unique insights have informed her writing of tailored philanthropy curriculum for both foundations and summer camps, and a series of articles for wider Jewish online publications. With a background in Jewish nonprofits, Alana began her career in the field at the Queens Regional Office for Hadassah, the Women's Zionist Organization of America. She later continued on to serve as a managing supervisor for Hillcrest Jewish Center in New York, where for 7 years she assisted in developing and enhancing numerous programs and fundraisers. She is a graduate of SUNY Purchase and has a BA in theater studies. Alana currently sits on the board of JPRO New York. In her spare time, Alana enjoys playing and writing music and is a member of the band Urban Tea Kettle. And we also have with us Danielle Siegel, who is a senior project manager at JTFN. She was born in London in the United Kingdom and moved to New York in 2010. Inspired by her love of the Jewish community and combining her teaching, program management, and theater skills, Danielle has worked in the nonprofit Jewish field for over 14 years as a Jewish educator, camp director, and nonprofit manager. She has developed several curricula, including teen leadership courses, and has led workshops on teacher training, team management, and improvisation. Danielle presents at conferences and seminars nationwide about Jewish teen philanthropy, experiential education, and teen engagement. She was awarded the Jack Petchy Award for Outstanding Service to Young People in 2009. She is a current board member of JPRO New York City and is a trained storytelling maven with Lab Shul. She currently presents and produces the Jewish Teen Funders Network podcast, Outside the Tzedakah Box. She enjoys musical theater, trivia nights, board games, and eating out in New York restaurants. She resides with her husband and their son in Brooklyn. So without further ado, let's give it over to Danielle and Alana.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for hosting us here today. I'm Danielle. I'm Senior Program Manager from JTFN. And before we get stuck into our presentation, I would love to just kind of read through some of the great things that you wrote in the chat box. So Alana, can you go over to the chat box and say how are people unstructuring, how are people prioritizing their unstructured time at the moment?
Definitely. Thanks, Danielle. It looks like from Taylor says, I am making myself get up around the same time every day to do my work and be productive. From Josh, he said that he tries to do stuff and then falls into a pit of Netflix viewing. I think we can all relate to that. Definitely with you there. From M, she has been writing poetry and getting ahead in school. And then for me, I wrote that I'm in my unstructured time, I'm trying to take my dog for longer walks and really just enjoy the outdoors when I can. And then Amanda says that she is doing the same as Taylor. And Ava is making a schedule for herself every day. Great. So great. So lots of interesting things that people are doing, trying to manage their time and think of creative ways to be at home in their spaces. So thank you all for sharing.
Thank you so much. So we're just going to go over very quickly what we're going to do today. Why did we ask you that prompt question about how you are prioritizing your free time? Because really what we're going to be covering today is how do we prioritize? How do we make choices? And this is really key to our philanthropy, giving, work, everything. We're going to be looking at some key justice issues, how we make our choices about what we want to help in the world. We have a fun would you rather exercise. You will need an extra device like a phone, or you can do an extra browser on your computer. And then to make a decision, what are your priorities? So we've got a lot to cover. So I'm going to hand over to Alana to talk a little bit about how we make decisions.
Thanks, Danielle. So one of the first steps is just critical thinking. When we're trying to make an informed decision, we're thinking critically about how we want to give and narrowing down sometimes this very vast and overwhelming number of organizations to choose from. Today, it'll be a little bit easier because tonight you'll have 4 to select from, but as you engage in these exercises today, this is things that you can use in your chapters, in BBYO at home, and going forward as you think about how you want to give in a thoughtful and meaningful way. So considering these elements, we can prioritize. So part of that is taking a step back so we don't get overwhelmed. There's so much going on and so many aspects right now, specifically with the COVID-19 crisis, that are being affected, both in the healthcare field, on a economic level. So thinking about all those different things, sometimes just taking that breath and taking that step back so we can say, what is our priority of where we want to help? And at the end of the day, there's no wrong answer. It's what is meaningful to you personally. And from there, we take that step back, we look around us, and we can narrow down a little bit about where our priorities lie. So what we're gonna do to figure out where our help is needed is that we have 22 different justice issues that the Jewish Teen Funders Network have identified in our programming as sort of the core issues that we tend to focus on when we give. Obviously, there are more than 22 issues out there in the world, but especially today, and especially in this crisis, we want you to take a look at these different areas. All of them in some way or another are being affected by the current coronavirus crisis. And what I'm going to invite you to do is just take a look at these 22 different issues that are on the screen and choose up to 3 and type in the chat box up to 3 different issues that are the most meaningful to you in this moment, that you really would like to see addressed. And so whether it be a part of tonight's giving exercise or additional things that you'll do after today, this will help you think about the specific areas that you want to help. So I'm going to invite everybody to take a minute, read through these 22 issues, and choose 3 and type it in the chat. Great. And as we're waiting, the people who were so wonderful and typed very quickly, I'm gonna ask Garrett, since you were the first person to type, what you chose, and if you could share why those 3 came to the top for you in this moment.
Yeah, I chose healthcare, mental health, and food access. I think that they're always very important topics. Mental health is usually towards the top of my priority list when trying to think of who to help in a lot of cases. So, especially now, I know that it's very important to have the access to mental health resources. And also healthcare, of course, in this time, I feel like is a given everything that's going on and, how hyper aware we are of our worldwide situation right now. And also, hunger and food access with, people staying in their houses and supermarkets not being so readily available. It's a bigger issue than I think a lot of people realize. When you're focused on yourself, you don't think about what about the people who, don't have this food and this security that some of us do.
Thank you so much for sharing. Can I also get would you be willing to share your 3 and why you chose those 3?
Yeah, of course. So the first one I chose because I'm part of the community, and then hunger and food access. A lot of people don't realize that most of the kids that are going to the schools and getting these free and reduced lunches aren't getting fed at home. And that's just like a big problem in my personal community. And I want to see that like helped. And then women's equality, because I mean, you really see it everywhere that women aren't getting the same opportunities and sometimes resources as the men. So.
Thank you so much for sharing, and I'm going to have one more person share. Could I have Daniel share?
Yes, of course. So I chose mental health first because, like Garrett said, I think it's a really, really big problem right now. I really like what Cuomo's doing, and he set up a bunch of mental health hotlines with a lot of therapists that are open 24/7 for everyone that has anxiety during this big epidemic right now. I've been suffering a lot lately from a lot of anxiety, so I think that it's important to have a lot of these systems in place. Education and literacy I chose clearly because online learning is such an kind of a crazy shift that we're experiencing right now. I know a lot of people that, including myself, once again, that have certain problems. Like I have a 504 plan in my school because of my ADHD. So there's not really equal learning accessibility that I'm getting, and I know a lot of people that have it much worse than I do. And learning without a teacher has been so difficult for a lot of my peers that are in the same boat. So I think really a lot of these systems need to be improved. And lastly, domestic violence. I know a lot of my friends, they don't have good relationships with their family members, or they're not in a very supportive household, and that's where they're trapped right now in a household that makes them scared and that they don't feel safe in. So once again, like implementing systems, or somehow thinking about how can we help these people that are stuck with people that they're constantly in fear of all the time.
Daniel, thank you so much for sharing. And thank you to everyone who shared in the chat box. And I just, again, invite you to consider these. In some ways, you'll be able to address this evening, and other issue areas that you might want to just keep at the forefront in thinking about other ways you can get involved, whether it be to volunteer or to fundraise as we continue on for the time being. So for our next portion, we're going to continue to think about how we can prioritize our giving and certain questions that we can ask ourselves to help with that process. So I'm going to share my screen, and I'm going to pass the hosting reins off to Danielle as I do some back-end things. Oh, you're muted, Danielle.
I'm muted again. This is... sorry, my mistake entirely. So we're going to do a little bit of an exercise. This is a would you rather exercise, because even now when we're asking you to type things in the chat box and you picked 3, which is amazing. I mean, sometimes we just feel a little bit overwhelmed, and we do what we can, and we know we cannot do everything. So this is an interesting little exercise for us to do a bit of a stock check to see where our priorities lie. So I want you to go to the website listed at the top. It's menti.com, MENTI.com. And it'll ask you for a code. Please put in the code 615036, and it'll take you to our Would You Rather challenge. So you can do it from your phone. You can also do it from a different browser in your computer, whichever way you feel works for you. Still waiting for a few more people to log on.
How many do we have in the group, Danielle? Can you see on your screen or no?
Overall in the Zoom room right now, I think we have 19.
19, okay. So we have 7 logged in so far. So we'll give it just another minute or so, or like less than a minute, a few seconds, so everybody can get in.
19 would include you guys as well as the hosting account, so it'd be probably 16.
Okay, thank you. Thanks, Garrett. And if you're not able to join on for whatever reason, if your browsers aren't playing nicely, then please follow along. You can still play within your heart as well as, putting it out on the screen. So it's just at the top of the screen, menti.com, and then 615036. Okay, so our first question to you. Now, there is no right or wrong answer with this game at all. So just so you know, no right or wrong answer. So your first would you rather question. Would you rather help homelessness people in your city or help homeless people in Nigeria? Now you'll notice on your screen, it says like a scale of like 1 to 10. Don't worry about the numbers. It's not that one is better than the other. It's just where if you imagine there's a line, like in the middle is like, I could give either way. If you're closer to one side, it's like, oh, I would definitely want to give there. And if you're closer to the other side, it's, oh, I would definitely want to give there. So you can place yourself anywhere along that spectrum, along that line. So we'll get some votes in. Interesting. Has everyone placed themselves on the line? Oh, okay. Interesting spread over here. 4 people were more in your city. So for the person who said definitely, I'd rather give in my city, would someone like to share why they put that they would like to say give money or give donations or volunteer in their city over somewhere abroad? Yes, Ava, go for it.
Okay, so I live in New York, and obviously like there's like a pretty high rate of poverty in New York, and both of my parents work with like my dad sells homes to homeless people, and my mom's a social worker in a really poor area. So like obviously like I've always known like what's been going on, where most kids my age like are unaware of the poverty level where we live because like we're not like exposed to it. But like since I've been exposed to it, like I've realized like how bad it actually is, and like how much need and how much help that like these people actually need. And like my family like really does give back to a lot of these communities, which is really good.
Mm-hmm. Okay, great. So you have like a personal connection to that cause, and it's something you feel like you understand. Thank you for sharing. And Alana, if you hover over that timeline again, this person here, someone who was kind of closer to the Nigeria side rather than the in your city side, if someone would like to share why you placed yourself on that end of the line. Amanda, yes.
I said closer to the Nigeria side because there's so many people in our city that are already helping, and whereas people like living in Nigeria don't get as much help from others, so like they just need more help than people where we live.
Interesting, thank you. So it's about kind of like access, and where you see like there is access to help and where there isn't. Wonderful. So yeah, as you see, there is no right or wrong answer about this. This is all about just like how we feel about different things. Okay, so we're going to move on to our next question. Our next would you rather. So would you rather give to your library's after-school program that offers tutoring for low-income students, or your synagogue scholarship program for Hebrew school or camp? So put in where you see yourself on that scale. So the number you see now is kind of like the average across everyone. You can see that dancing around a little bit. So everyone put in your, where you appear. Wonderful, thank you. Okay, so we're just going to have one feedback, I think, for now, so we can move on as well. But the person I would like to ask, the person who was all the way to the far right, so they said that they would give to their synagogue scholarship fund for camp or religious school. Would anyone like to share why they placed themselves there on the line?
I did all the way to the right. Hold on, I'm sorry, I have music playing. Hold on. All right, I'm sorry. So I chose my synagogue rather than school because of how important the Jewish religion became to me, if that makes sense, in the past few years. and school is just like, I'm a senior, so personally, there's not really a point for me doing anything for my school in the future. And with Judaism being a part of me for who knows how many years, I'll have my own religion as much as I can.
Thank you so much for sharing. And we've got, that was a really interesting one because it was spread across the whole spectrum on that line. So thank you for sharing your opinion on that one. Moving on to the next, would you rather? Thank you. So an organization, would you rather give to an organization that provides people with hot meals or an organization that teaches people job skills so that they can get a job and earn a living? Wonderful. Oh, wow. Interesting spread. Okay. So in the interest of time, unfortunately, I would love to ask you like why you decided to put yourself on a line in certain places. But I think this is, if Alana, you hover over that line so we can just see the spread. I think that's a really interesting spread there. Wow, very spread out. Okay, but we'll go on to our next would you rather. Would you rather give to Girl Scouts, which engages building leadership skills and self-confidence, or Girl Start, a program that works to increase engagement in STEM? Girl Scout, which has been around for 100 or so years, and Girl Start, which is a much newer organization. Okay, again, really interesting spread. Kind of the average falls right in the middle, actually, 4.9. Really interesting. Thank you. And our final one, would you rather give to funds for your local food pantry to run or pay for computers and the hiring of a director, or funds for your local food pantry to pay for the canned goods? Interesting. It's moving around a little bit. Wonderful. Okay, so a little bit more towards the right side, but there's still a pretty good spread. So I think we can see from that really like everyone's priorities are different, and that is okay, because it means that the burden is not on every single person to help everything, that there is that really, there is that feeling of collective giving, that we're all doing our bit. And it's not to say that anything is more important than anything else. It just means that what is important to you is different. Now, what we did with those examples, those were just examples of some broader themes. So we looked at local versus global, Jewish versus secular, immediate need versus systemic change, established versus innovation, and programming versus operations. So these are all things that you can consider when you're thinking about what matters to you and where you like to give your time and your money. So I'm going to pass over to Alana to wrap up, because we're nearly out of time, but we covered a lot of stuff today. So over to you, Alana.
So just to reiterate, thank you so much, Danielle. And as you're thinking about these things, what you feel today, you can ask those questions of yourself and different questions about your priorities. When you think of like those issue areas that we talked about earlier in this call, like I care about mental health. Now we can narrow that down of like, who specifically do I want to help within mental health? Where do I want to help mental health? Do I want to do it locally? Do I want to do it globally? Do I want to do it specifically within the Jewish community, or do I want to support a wider global audience? It's so many different questions that you can ask yourself. And again, there are no right or wrong answers. And even what is right or wrong to you, or what works for you today, might be different tomorrow. So you'll ask these questions as you give each time. And for each situation, these priorities might shift, especially as you do that work together. So we're going through some of these things. One of the things that I do want to get to while we still have no time, but one of the things that I do want to mention is that with this fundraising campaign that is happening today and that will culminate tonight at 9:00, fundraise, get out there, share this on social media. You can use some of these prioritization pieces in how you fundraise. You can talk to people about, these are the things that I really care about. These are the things that are important to me. And I hope that you'll support us as we try to combat this global crisis. So you can use some of these things in your messaging on social media. Take that link, givebutter.com/jserve2020, put it on your Instagram, or if you're on Facebook or wherever you're on social media, share it with friends and family, and then come tonight and make a decision about where that money goes. And you'll think about your priorities in helping to make that decision tonight. I think I think we need to wrap it up. So if there are any questions, I can put my email in the chat and Danielle's email in the chat. So feel free if you want to reach out that way. We're happy to answer questions if they came up for you. So I'm just going to do that now. And then actually, I think I just typed that privately. So I'm going to do it again. Alana@jtfn.org. And so you can send me an email if you have any questions. And thank you so much for being here with us today. We really appreciate you taking the time. We know this is your Sunday, and for you to be here is really so important and so special. And we're just honored to share it with you. So thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you guys so much for coming and joining us and giving us such a, an awesome and informative presentation. I know that you guys, didn't have the largest amount of time, but they made the most of it, and it was really, a great presentation. So thank you guys for all coming on, and, don't forget to hop on that 9:00 call, and we can, hear from some more speakers and vote on where our money is going and use some of the skills that we learned here today.
Amazing. Thank you for hosting, Garrett.
Thank you guys.
Thank you. Bye.